Hi guys, welcome back to the channel for another cook. Little bit of a different cook today. It has not stopped raining all day. I mean, from 5 o'clock this morning when I got up right through until now, it is like 7:30 and it has poured down constantly. So couldn't do a cook along, you wouldn't hear me with the rain, but I wanted to get something out for you guys and make sure the video stays out every week as I try to do. So today we're doing chicken schnitzel. Chicken schnitzel. I could go horribly wrong throughout this video, apologies if I say it wrong. So chicken schnitzel is a sort of bashed out thin chicken, and you coat it in breadcrumbs and then shallow fry it in a pan or skillet. So we're going to give that a go. We're going to turn it into a burger, and the schnitzel on its own is maybe a little bit basic, so I thought, right, what else can we add in there? So we're going to do our own pretzel buns. So we do pretzel burger buns, the schnitzel, and a little bit of a sauce to go along with it. Trust me, it's not the usual cook we do, but it is well worth the wait. So the pretzel buns take a lot longer to prepare than the schnitzel does, so we're going to start with it. To make up the dough for it, it's a pretty basic one. There's a little bit of an odd thing in the middle, but we'll talk about that when we come to it. So we're going in with flour, salt and yeast into the mixing bowl of our mixer. You can do this by hand, just use a normal bowl, mix it by hand. Much easier to use a mixer for it. Then we're going to dissolve down about a tablespoon of honey in some milk. So you know, warm up the milk and then whisk the honey into it until it's completely dissolved. That's going to be the liquids for the mixture. Just before you turn everything on to mix, you're going to add a bit of softened butter. Now I'll leave full measurements in the description of this video. There'll be a link there to go through for the full recipe. I don't want to rhyme them all off now and end up getting them wrong. So turn the mixer on with the dough hook attachment and slowly add your milk mixture into it. Tend to go in around 4 parts. Just don't add it all in at once or the dough won't form properly. Then whenever the doughs come together properly, turn the mixer up to a slightly higher speed and let it knead for around 10 minutes. If you're doing it by hand, get the dough formed, tip it out onto a floured surface and then knead it by hand, but you're looking for around 10 minutes until the dough is nice and smooth on the outside. So whenever the dough is ready, then we're going to portion it up and then prove it. Some other things you would prove the dough first and then form it into its buns, but not with these. So I divided this mixture into 4 equal parts, which gives me a good size burger. Chicken schnitzel is quite large. Whenever you batter out that chicken fillet, it makes quite a large piece of meat, so a small bun just wasn't going to cut it. It would be hanging out the edges too much. So these are quite large buns. If you're doing these for regular sort of 4 or 6 ounce burgers, maybe make them slightly smaller. You could divide it into maybe 5 or 6 and still get a good sized burger bun out of it. These were massive, but that's what I needed to put the schnitzel into. So once you've weighed them out, form them into balls, put them onto a lined baking tray and prove them for around an hour or until they roughly double in size. So the next step is a little bit of a weird one, and that is we need to boil these. We're going to boil them with a bicarbonate of soda mixture, which is going to give them a nice crust on the outside of them. So add your bicarb into a saucepan with some boiling water and bring it up to the boil. Then we're going to boil each pretzel bun for around 20-30 seconds on each side. So put them in, let them boil for 20-30 seconds and then flip them over and boil the other side. They'll just float on the surface, they won't sink down into the water. That's why you need to flip them over. And once they're done, lift them off, let them cool a little bit, and then I go on top of them and score that cross into them, which is going to open up and it's going to give us that nice cross mark on the top of them whenever they're cooked. And finally put them onto a baking tray. I brush the baking tray down with a little bit of oil just to stop them sticking. And you want to give them a brush with a beaten egg and then sprinkle a little bit of coarse sea salt on top of them. So I use the Maldon sea salt, nice big flakes, and they really taste good whenever they're baked onto the top of the pretzel buns. Okay, so I baked the pretzel buns in the Kamado Joe just because I had it fired up. Not sure there's any real advantage to baking them other than you get quite a nice even bake on them. So you can do them in the oven as well. They went in at a temperature of around 200°C. Try and keep it nice and high, and they cooked for around 20 minutes or so. You'll know when they're ready whenever they have that nice even golden colour over the outside. I've done these once before and I left them off a little bit too early. They were still that yellow golden colour, so you're looking for a slightly brown colour on them. So don't panic, that's the colour they're supposed to be. Just give them their time. So these were around 20 minutes in the Kamado Joe. I'm not sure if that would be slightly different in the oven. So our buns are ready. Before I go ahead and talk about how to make the schnitzel, we'll talk a little bit about the sauce, because it's a good one to do ahead of time whenever your buns are cooking. So the sauce is Dijon mustard and caper mayonnaise. Trust me, might not sound the most appetizing, but it really works well with the schnitzel. So I've had about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise, and into that we went with about half a teaspoon of ground coriander. You can do it to taste, it's quite a strong flavour, but it works well in this with the mustard. Then we're going to have 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard, around a heaped tablespoon of capers, and I've just run my knife through them to chop them down a little bit. So they're not full capers in there, they're all sort of chopped down into little pieces. So you're still getting the flavour of them, but you're not necessarily getting them large chunks of it. Give it all a mix together and then taste it, because you want to go in with a little bit of salt and pepper, but to me it doesn't need an awful lot of salt, and it needs a good grinding of pepper, but do it to your own taste. It's entirely up to you. And that's the sauce done. No good burger is complete without a sauce. Now we have one. So schnitzel time. Schnitzel is traditionally made with veal, which is hammered out thin and then coated in a breadcrumb mixture and shallow fried. You can do it with pork as well. So I've seen people do it with pork loin and then smashing it out really thin. And then I've done it with chicken. Chicken is another common one. I definitely want to give the pork one a try. I'm not sure, I don't think I've ever tried veal. Maybe that would be a good opportunity to try it, but I feel like I would like to eat veal on its own first and then I'll start doing funky stuff to it. So I've just used regular skin off boneless chicken breasts. I took my knife and sliced into them to butterfly them out, just so I can hammer them out a little bit thinner. You know what chicken breast is like, it's got a fat end and it thins the way down. Very hard to get that beat out in an even way. So slice the knife in, butterfly it out, and then you're working with a more even thickness to start with. And then put that into a Ziploc bag and go ham at it with the rolling pin, just to bash it out until it's as thin as you can get it without it really falling apart. Now, as you'll see, I had a few holes in mine. Not the end of the world, it holds together fine whenever you're cooking it, but if you take it too far it will just crumble apart. Then we need to get done with the coating, so we're going with the good old flour, egg, breadcrumbs mixture. The flour is a seasoned flour. There's salt, pepper, onion, garlic, a little bit of cumin and some oregano in there. Again, measurements all down below, I'll round them off now. So we get into that first, make sure the breast is completely covered in it, because that's what's going to help the egg stick to it. So into the flour, coat it, then into your egg mixture. Drain off as much of the egg as you can. We want it coated all over, but we don't want it sitting thick on it. So hold it up, give it a shake to make sure the egg comes off it, and then into your breadcrumbs. These are just regular white breadcrumbs with a little bit of parsley mixed through them. You can use panko breadcrumbs, you could use sourdough ground up into breadcrumbs. Have at it, it's entirely up to you. Some form of breadcrumbs. And as I said, we're going to shallow fry this, so I have my Lodge cast iron skillet on the Kamado Joe. Over a relatively high heat. It's not crazy searing hot to the point where the oil's smoking, but it is quite hot. I think the hood was reading maybe around 200, 210, which is quite a fire to have below a skillet, but as long as your oil isn't smoking, it won't cook too fast, because we want these to become golden brown. We don't want them to become dark and crunchy. It should be crispy, not crunchy. So your oil should be at a point where it's hot but not smoking. You don't need an awful lot of oil either. I had around maybe half a centimetre on the bottom of the pan. You don't need to have it right the way up that you're going to be deep frying this. It shouldn't be completely submerged. You're only cooking one side, then flipping it over and doing the other side. So half a centimetre of oil in the bottom of that skillet is enough. So lay your breaded chicken in there, let it cook for 3-4 minutes until it goes nice and golden brown on the bottom. If you lift it up and it hasn't gone golden brown yet, put it back down, it's not ready. Then flip it over and do the other side, and it's a little bit too thin to probe. It'll be a little bit like probing bacon, so we don't go by temperature on this, but by the time that outer crust has gone nice and golden brown, the chicken is more than cooked. So it's time to build up the burger. So we start with our pretzel bun, which is just cut in half. Slather on that sauce on the bottom part of it, and then we're going on with our schnitzel. It's a huge piece of chicken. If you were just to set that in a burger, it would look ridiculous. Might work, you can nibble around the edges and then eat the rest of it. So I just run the knife through it and sort of stack them on top of each other. Then we're going with a little bit of cheese. We need cheese, and of course it has to be plastic burger cheese. Use other ones if you want, but I'm not sure we can be friends if you do. Then we're going on with some pickles. Can't have a burger without pickles, and to me they work perfectly with that sauce. There's a little bit of a tang off the sauce from the capers, and that little sort of mustard hit from it works really well with chicken and with them pickles, so match made in heaven. Then we go on the top bun with a little bit more of that sauce and crown the whole thing off. Again, apologies I don't have one here sitting in front of me to eat and tell you what it was like, but trust me, it is well worth a try. They were so tasty, the whole family enjoyed them. Sometimes my kids can be a little bit funny about burgers. Some they like, some they don't like, different toppings they like, some they don't. One's obsessed with pickles, one hates them. So it's good that it was one that the whole family liked. My eldest daughter completely loved them. So give them a try. They're pretty simple to do. The buns maybe take a little bit of practice to get right, but they're well worth it. And I say make them slightly smaller if you're doing them for a normal burger, but for a schnitzel you need a big burger to fit that thing into. As always, there's a link in the description for the full recipe for this. If you want to give it a try, it has all the measurements in there. Let me know if you do have it. I want you to tag me in your photos and let me know what you thought. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video, where hopefully it won't be raining and we can actually cook face to face.